Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends was a small but impactful staple on my childhood. The idea that a bunch of forgotten imaginary friends lived in a house and a young boy comes along to get wrapped up in the adventures, all while this older girl is there to be mopey and a little funny at times. And when I found out that John Krasinski and Ryan Reynolds were going to be in the live-action adaptation, I was over the moon. Then I learned it wasn't a live-action adaptation, but a movie that has some very, and I mean very, similar plot points and details as the old Cartoon Network show. So yeah, I guess let's get into it. If opens with home videos of our main character B growing up with her parents, where we also see her mom is going through chemotherapy. We time skip and now B's 12 years old back in her old home with her grandma. After she does a little bit of reminiscing, she heads off to the hospital where her dad is a patient awaiting surgery. After Jim from the office dances with his IV cart, B tells him that he doesn't have to treat her like a kid because life doesn't always have to be fun. So her dad is just sitting in the hospital while he waits for his surgery, and he tells B that everything is going to be just A.O. Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
Later that night, B finds an old camcorder, prompting her to race off to a corner store deli to grab some charging cables. On her way back, she spots her first if, aka imaginary friend. And that's what I'll be referring to them as for this entire movie, so you and I both can get into the spirit that if is trying to put in us. So B chases the if all the way to the top of her building, where one Mr. Ryan Funny Pants Reynolds tells her to go away from behind his door. Then some old lady comes out and yells at B for being on the top floor this late at night, making this little girl run away scared. The next day, B goes back to the hospital to see her dad, but first she meets a kid named Benjamin who broke his butt. I'm not joking. He tells her that he broke his actual butt because he can't say the word coccyx. Now Ryan Reynolds is playing Cal, who is out to bring this giant blueberry-looking guy voiced by Michael Scott back to his if hideout apartment place. While doing so, Blue, the if, sneezes, waking the little girl in her room, so they hide for 2 seconds before B sees them coming out of the window. She faints and then wakes up in Cal's apartment, where she formally meets Blue, Blossom, and Cal, where he tells her that he remembers her from when she was smaller. Then Blossom explains to B that they're all working together to find new kids to be ifs for because their old kids grew up and can't see them anymore. Cal gets all grumpy and tells her to go on and get, leading us back to the hospital the next morning where she spots Blue in the hallway. Do people normally stay at the hospital for days before a surgery, even if it's a heart-related surgery like this? I don't know. It's just weird to me that he's just at the hospital, not really doing anything. Every time we see John Krasinski's character, he's either just goofing off or like reading a book. Anyways, B gets upset that Blue followed her, so she storms back to Cal's apartment to return him and tell him that she doesn't want whatever's happening to her. Blossom and Blue say that B can help save them all because this 12-year-old girl can help them find new kids, otherwise they might disappear forever. No. Just no. Like, even at 12, if you went around in 2025 to other 12-year-olds saying you have imaginary friends that they can adopt, you'd get bullied into the next dimension. So, after telling everyone she's not a kid, B then tells Cal that she can in fact help them because she is a kid? God damn it, B, make up your fucking mind. Our duo heads out to Coney Island, where under one of the rides is a group of ifs that live in what they call a retirement home for imaginary friends. And yeah, this is the part that is 100% Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, as B just goes around for a second and meets ifs voiced by a ton of famous people. And some of these famous voices include the likes of Matt Damon, Keegan-Michael Key, Bradley Cooper, Sam Rockwell, Jon Stewart, and Awkwafina. Not my favorite choice, but she's all right in this. It's almost like John Krasinski just called up all of his friends and asked them to be in this movie. Cal takes B to see an if named Lewis, who tells her immediately that Cal used to be a clown. Like, he used to be an actual clown. For no reason, he just brings this up. I'm sure it won't be important later. Lewis also tells Bea that the retirement home can be anything she wants. So she walks around and imagines vines attacking Cal. She also makes some stars appear. The dragon from Shrek breathes some fire, and she makes a bigger pool. Then Cal goes through a painting, runs away from Bea and Lewis, and then gets teleported onto a stage with a mullet to dance with Bea and all of the ifs. After that ends, she heads to see her dad in the hospital again to just drop off flowers and then leave? So, Bea, Cal, and Lewis interview ifs to see if any of them are a good match for Benjamin, and we get more voice cameos from George Clooney and Emily Blunt, because of course John Krasinski's wife is in this movie. All the ifs take turns standing in Benjamin's doorway to find out which one he can see, and the one he ends up going home with is none of them. Honestly, this whole sequence does nothing for the plot, and also didn't really matter in the end, so I honestly think it was just a way for more of those famous people to get voice lines in as they're interviewing them. Lewis tells Bea that instead of trying to find new kids, they should look for their old ones regardless if they've grown up. He actually argues that kids need their ifs more when they grow up because life sucks. That night, Bea's grandma tells her about how she at one point wanted to be a dancer, and in her old photo, Bea sees Blossom? How is that possible? Do ifs show up in photos if they're in the photo and you can see them? Or do they just show up in photos if they're captured on photo like ghosts, and that's why we haven't really seen them in photos before? So then, Bea goes to tell Blossom, and Cal tells her again that it doesn't matter if they can't remember they had an if in the first place, they can't see their if, even if they're right next to them. Completely ignoring this, Bea grabs Blossom and puts on a record her grandma used to dance to, and then nothing really happens, and the scene just kind of ends with Blossom glowing and her grandma dancing. Moving on from this immediately, the next day, Bea goes with Cal to bring Blue to his grown-up kid. He kinda remembers before heading into a big meeting, so Blue celebrates by giving Bea a big old hug. And then this one lady just looks at Bea as she's like weirdly standing on her tippy toes, clearly in an abnormal way, as if it's not completely weird. Because if I saw a kid doing this in public, I would immediately think, this is pretty fucking weird. This is followed by Bea and Cal dancing on the stairs, Bea's grandma telling her that they need to go see her dad ASAP, and then Bea running upstairs to tell Cal that she can't say goodbye to her dad. And at the hospital, all the ifs are just there in the hallway, as her dad is completely fine. Nothing is wrong at all. But unfortunately for Bea, now that her dad is better and she's all grown up or something, she can't see the imaginary friends anymore. And when she goes to Cal's apartment place, no one's there. But in the middle of all of this, Bea spots the movie's big reveal. Remember how I said Lewis called Calvin a clown? Turns out, not only was he a clown, but he was Bea's if the whole time. So her if was just a normal human man who dressed like a clown? Bea has a bad imagination, because that's incredibly lame. I knew a kid who had an imaginary friend that was a fucking dragon. Come on, Bea, get your shit together. Whatever, the movie ends with a montage of all the ifs being reunited with their kids, the end. Okay, first off, there is one moment in this movie that is still making me laugh and driving me crazy, all at the same time. Okay, at the end, Bea comes home and the grandma tells her that they have to go to the hospital, but she's sure it's probably nothing. So boom, Bea races off to cry to Cal that she doesn't want to say goodbye to her dad. Then they get to the hospital and you can clearly see a nurse tell the grandma everything is okay. Then Bea goes into the room and a nurse tells her exactly this: your dad had a long day, he just needs some rest. And so her reaction is to cry and beg her dad not to die, even though she was told that he was basically fine. But then after he wakes up, she comes out and tells the grandma he's okay, and she hugs and cries like she also thought he was gonna die. What is the point of building up this moment like something was wrong, have all the characters be told nothing is wrong, but then have them all react like it's some kind of miracle he's okay? This movie fucking sucks. Do kids like Ryan Reynolds looking grumpy with a mullet, dancing with a little girl in a top hat while CGI imaginary friends dance in the background? Because yet again, I find myself wondering what kids would like about this movie because there doesn't feel like anything here for them or adults. John Krasinski's character is just Jim from The Office, and like most of the cast in this movie, he's just wasted as a side character who doesn't get to do anything other than be Jim. It's like having all of these famous people voice the ifs. Kids don't care that you got George Clooney to be the astronaut, or that Bradley Cooper is an ice cube. There's just things in this movie that feel like a good idea, but in execution, there's a lot that feels empty or like it went nowhere. A majority of this movie is everyone being sad about their dad in the hospital, having to take care of other imaginary friends, your kid not remembering who you are, or some other sad thing. But that's okay, because now it's time for a little section of this video I'm calling Reasons You Can Tell Cal is an If, even if the movie doesn't think you can tell. Reason number 1. On the train, he tells B he's been able to see imaginary friends as long as he can remember. And while they talk, all the people around them have headphones in, so B doesn't look like a crazy little kid talking to air next to her. Reason number 2. He never talks to another human being, and the one time he's in a scene with another kid, the kid and him never directly exchange dialogue, so that was suspicious. And reason number 3. He might be able to breathe underwater. There's a moment where he goes through the painting and he ends up in water and he doesn't panic or look like he needs to breathe and he just tries to swim deeper. So, yet again, I have to ask, why did B imagine a grown man dressed as a clown to be her imaginary friend? And what kids imagined knights from like the 1500s as imaginary friends? There are these 2 knights that are identical and just there. And I fear they may live in my head rent-free for a while, because honestly, why? Like, why? But you know what? So many questions and no fucks to give, because this movie is bad and I didn't like it. It's way too sad and slow for a kid's movie, and not funny or interesting enough to keep anyone else entertained, in my opinion. So that lands If into just plain garbage. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to check out my video on Lightyear, another sad, boring, bad kids movie for nobody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below what movie you'd like to see me cover in the future.